Christians often say that Jesus claimed to be God, but if you actually read what he said, not what later theologians said about him, the picture is completely different. Jesus never once says, "I am God," not in Greek, not in Aramaic, not even in metaphor. Every so-called proof text turns out to mean something else when you read it in context. Take John 10:30. I and the Father are one. Sounds divine at first, until you realize Jesus later prays that his disciples may be one just as we are one. He's talking about unity of purpose, not identity. Alex O'Connor points this out often. Jesus isn't saying that he is God, but that he's perfectly aligned with God's will, something any deeply spiritual person could say. Then there's John 8:58. Before Abraham was, I am. Christians love to say he's quoting God's name from Exodus, but even if you take it literally, pre-existence doesn't equal divinity. Angels pre-existed before Abraham too, and many scholars argue that Jesus is making a statement about divine mission, not claiming to be the divine himself. And Son of God? That title was used for kings, prophets, and even the entire nation of Israel. It meant chosen by God, not literally God. Claiming to be a son of God was common. Claiming to be God would have been unthinkable to any devout Jew. But if you really want clarity, look at the verses where Jesus explicitly distinguishes himself from God. The Father is greater than I, in John 14:28. I can do nothing of my own, in John 5:30. My Father and your Father, my God and your God, John 20:17. This is eternal life, that they know you, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom you have sent, John 17:3. Why do you call me good? No one is good except God alone, Mark 10:18. Those just aren't the words of someone claiming to be God. They're the words of someone serving God. Even his language, as the Father has sent me, I am sending you, puts him on the same continuum as the people he's sending. A messenger, not the origin. And what about the charge of blasphemy? People say he was killed for claiming to be God, but that's not true either. In the ancient world, blasphemy could mean any perceived challenge to divine authority. Stephen in Acts 7 is executed for saying that Jesus stood at the right hand of God. He never claimed Jesus was even God. The word blasphemy back then didn't require you to claim divinity, only to offend the religious hierarchy. So Jesus' trial doesn't prove he said, I am God. It proves that claiming closeness to God, or being seen as chosen by God, was dangerous to people who claimed to own God. If you strip away centuries of theological layers and look at the text clearly, Jesus reads like a prophet, a reformer, and a man in tune with the divine, not the divine himself. The doctrine that he is God came later, as Greek philosophy and Roman politics reshaped his message into a creed. Even Alex O'Connor, who debates theology professionally, says the historical Jesus likely never thought of himself as God incarnate, and he's right. The earliest gospel, Mark, opens with Jesus being baptized by God's Spirit, not as God's Spirit. In short, if Jesus were God, he wouldn't pray to himself for strength or guidance. He wouldn't admit ignorance of things God must know. He wouldn't worship or obey another being and call that being my God. He wouldn't be tempted because divinity can't be swayed by evil, and he wouldn't plead for rescue